You know we love spooky things. This is why we fell in love with Michigan-based LynBDesigns. When I popped the pumpkin spice all the things wax melt into my burner, my home was filled with the delicious buttery scent. Plus, there's the wide variety of gorgeous nail polishes with themes like Hocus Pocus and Pleasant Peninsula. All products are vegan and cruelty-free, and you can find monthly sales on Facebook and Instagram at LynBDesigns. Head to LynBDesigns.store today. Again, that's LYNB Designs.store.
We love them. We love you. It's great nail polish. It's the best I've ever used. Thanks!
Michiganders can be a superstitious bunch. We find all sorts of reasons to explain the world around us, sometimes pulling from science, sometimes tradition, and sometimes from our imaginations. What happens when we can't readily explain our experiences? And what happens when a ghost story gets out of hand? Do these legends stem entirely from fantasy? Or are people seeing things no one can truly explain? I'm Krista K. Coburn.
And I'm Kay Gray.
Welcome to Haunted Mitten.
Wow, look at us finally tackling one of the most requested locations in Michigan. Took us 5 seasons, but we got here.
This obviously won't be able to be done in just one part. Although the island is only a few miles across, it's overflowing with history, hauntings, and who knows what else. Its history doesn't start with the Europeans, but goes back hundreds of years before that to the indigenous peoples of North America. In fact, quote, archaeologists have excavated prehistoric fishing camps on Mackinac Island and in the surrounding areas. Fishhooks, pottery, and other artifacts establish a Native American presence at least 700 years before European exploration around AD 900. End quote. That's from Wikipedia, and that's pretty incredible.
It is. This island has been around for a long time.
Oh, yes.
According to Andrew Blackbird's 1887 History of the Indigenous People of Michigan, the name Mackinac does not come from the more common translation, large turtle, but a different set of words entirely. This is going to be kind of long of a quote, but I think it's really important, and props to Andrew Blackbird. Quote, most every historian or analyst so-called who writes about the island of Mackinac and the straits and vicinity tells us that the definition or the meaning of the word Michilimackinac in the Ottawa and Chippewa language is large turtle, derived from the word Michilimackinac in the Chippewa language. That is, Mishi as one of the adnominals or adjectives in the Ottawa and Chippewa languages, which would signify tremendous in size. The Mackinac is the name of mud turtle, meaning therefore monstrous large turtle, as the historians would have it. But we consider this to be a clear error. Wherever those analysts or those who write about the island of Mackinac obtain their information as to the definition of the word Michilimackinac, I don't know, when our tradition is so direct and so clear with regard to the historical definition of that word, and is far from being derived from the word Michilimackinac, as the historians have told us. Our tradition says that when the island was first discovered by the Ottawas, which was some time before America was known as an existing country by the white man, there was a small independent tribe, a remnant race of Indians who occupied this island, who became confederated with the Ottawa and when the Ottawas were living in Manitoulin, formerly called Ottawa Island, which is situated north of Lake Huron. The Ottawas thought a good deal of this unfortunate race of people, as they were kind of interesting sort of people, just regular interesting people. But unfortunately, they had most powerful enemies, who every now and then would come among them to make war with them. Their enemies were of the Iroquois of New York. Therefore, once in the dead of winter, while the Ottawas were having a great jubilee and war dances at their island, now Manitoulin, on account of the great conquest over the Winnebagos, what became the Winnebagos
Probably.
of Wisconsin, of which I will speak more fully in subsequent chapters. during which time the Senecas of New York of the Iroquois family of Indians came upon the remnant race and fought them and almost entirely annihilated them. But 2 escaped to tell the story, who effected their escape by flight and hiding in one of the natural caves on the island, and therefore that was the end of this race. And according to our understanding and traditions, the tribal name of those disastrous people was Michilimackinac, which is still existing to this day as a monument of their former existence. For the Ottawas and Chippewas named this little island Michilimackinac for memorial sake of those former Confederates, which word is the locative case of the Indian noun. I just see big words and I just get scared. Michilimackinac. Therefore, we contend this is properly where the name Michilimackinac is originated.
That does make way more sense. The amount of sass in Andrew Blackbird's writing is life-giving.
He is so sassy about it. He's like, oh, you thought it meant like big old turtle? No, not even close, friends. Sorry, white people. Yeah, but I just love the way that Andrew Blackbird just tells it like it is. And it's like, no, white people, this is not, you got it wrong.
Yeah, I like how in I'm not just Michigan's past, but I'm more familiar with Michigan's past. Historians really didn't think to just ask the local tribes.
Yeah.
They're trying to puzzle out what this word means. It's like, how about you ask someone who speaks the language and whose people have been living here for centuries?
I know.
Like, no, did it even occur to you to ask? Okay.
No, we'll just figure it out on our own. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I feel like maybe it's a non-European thing as well, but it's definitely a European thing because they did the same thing over in Europe.
Oh yeah. No, they're never going to ask the Celts what that meant.
Yeah, I've because Greg is Polish descent and he's been looking into his Polish history, I guess, and customs and things.
Yeah.
I've been coming across a lot of Slavic folklore and other things, and there are things there too where this woman who's Polish said, "Oh yeah, this is what most people say, but you know, if you just look at the translation in Polish, this is what it actually means." And Polish is not a dead language by any stretch.
No. That's really
Russian,
funny.
not a dead language. Like it's hilarious. 'Cause I'm like, these are, you know, maybe they're a little evolved from where it was hundreds of years ago. But I mean, that's like saying, oh man, we can't figure out what this Latin word is. Well, how about you look at, I don't know, French, Italian, Spanish.
Yeah.
Like Romanian, all of the Romance languages, right. And maybe you can figure it out.
Yeah, maybe that will tell you. No, you're just gonna parse it out on your own. Hey, all right.
Yeah, they seem to do this for all non-Western European languages.
Yeah, pretty much.
So that was a long read, but no, that was well worth it. And it was nice to hear it in his own perfect way of wording
I just didn't think there was any way to cut any of that out, and that's also like the history of the island,
right?
Like these people,
and that would make sense. There are caves. I mean, there's the Skull Cave.
Skull Cave, yeah.
That has lots of stories about people hiding in it, so it fits in with other stories I know of the island. Like, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. If you know anything about the history of that area, it makes perfect sense. And also that they tend to. People in general, I don't think it's unique to Native Americans, but I certainly know that in Michigan, they named places after the people who used to live there.
Right.
And we certainly did that as white people. I mean, a lot of these names I recognize. Seneca.
Yeah.
Like, I recognize these names as places.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, the Native Americans did the same thing.
Yep. They wanted
Allegedly,
to remember.
Saginaw means where the Snooks lived.
Yeah. They wanted to remember this people, and this is where they lived, and so it's so every time,
it's a way of honoring them. Yeah. And then there's Iroquois Point, was that it?
Oh, yes. Yeah, there is
in
Iroquois Point.
the lighthouse
Yes.
episode
Yeah.
where we killed all those guys.
Well,
It was
yeah.
a way of memorializing them.
Sure.
Yeah,
Anyway.
yeah. Now of course I will say English. It became Mackinac. It does have the C at the end. Thank you. It's not Mackinac. If you're from Michigan, you probably know this.
Right.
That is from the French because they called it Michilimackinac.
Yeah.
Like the fort that stands near the bridge near the top of the Lower Peninsula. If you've been, fun times.
I know, it's really cool.
It's fun. Yeah,
I love
it's
that
neat.
fort.
Don't they do a Halloween thing too?
Yes, they do a Halloween thing now, and I want to go.
Yeah. Oh man, that'd be fun. That'd be really fun. The British, as is their way, shortened the name to Mackinac.
They can't say that full word.
Kept the C. They kept the C. Good job. And then, of course, we've been stuck with that ever since.
Yep.
Though it would be fun to make people try to say the whole thing. I need someone to sit down and be like, here's how vowels work. in Ottawa and
yeah,
the different
Does Duolingo have
the different local tribes?
Does Duolingo have that?
I don't think so.
Dang it.
Because as long as you break down things into syllables for me, I'm good to go. I studied Japanese. I know how that works.
Right.
So, yeah, break it down into syllables for me. Tell me how your vowels work, and I should be
okay.
Pretty strong with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have found places online to study, which I want to do. Yeah, I'm really glad we've been saying the name of this massacred tribe and giving it such a lovely name as Big Turtle. But, hey, good to memorialize. We don't know much about them. Clearly, this island has been excavated for centuries, honestly, probably at this point.
Yeah.
So, even if most people don't know the origin of the name, the tribe gets to continue to be spoken of into the future.
Exactly. They will be remembered essentially forever.
Yes.
Even if people don't really know what they're saying. Like, their names. I think it's important. I do this when I go to cemeteries. If you've ever noticed, I will just start saying people's names out loud. I think it's really important to give those people, give those memories a voice, whether or not I knew them personally.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's just super important to...
And that's why we record these things, I think, as humans.
Yeah.
Before we had writing, or before writing was very prevalent, we would repeat the names.
Yeah.
I mean, like, a lot of the areas in Italy are named after the very ancient tribes who lived there.
Yeah.
Like Tuscany. Perfect example.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, I think memorialization is super important to humans and for history. So I think it's awesome that even if most people don't know the actual origin of Mackinac, we still speak these people's title and name every day.
Right. Yeah. It's evolved with humanity, but they are still being memorialized.
Yeah. All right. So the Europeans arrived to the island probably around the 1630s, starting with French traveler and trader Jean Nicolet. The Straits of Mackinac have long been central to trade in the region, and the French and British made use of them as well. Jesuit priest Claude Dablon founded a mission for the Native Americans on the island in 1670 and was succeeded by a much more well-known Jesuit priest, Jacques Marquette.
Very much well-known.
Yeah. Oh, look, everything is named after him. Who moved the whole operation to St. Ignace. The British took the island after the French and Indian War and decided it was a perfect place for their new fort, which they built in 1780.
It is a great spot for a fort, too. Like, you can see...
everything.
Yeah, you can see the whole straits.
You're so protected on this little island. Like, this is a really easily defensible place. You can see, just miles and miles and miles.
Yeah, if the bridge weren't there, you could just see all of that water.
Yeah.
It's impressive. So per Wikipedia, quote, during the War of 1812, the British captured the fort in the Siege of Fort Mackinac, the first battle of the conflict. The Americans were caught by surprise, not knowing that the war had been declared. End quote. Yeah. It's a little remote. When you're a small island in the middle of two large lakes, only accessible by ship, tend to be left out of the news.
Oh,
Especially
shit,
given,
what?
When you factor in weather and time of year and things, yeah.
Mhm.
So the Americans tried to recapture Mackinac in 1814, but failed. As we said, it's an island in the middle of essentially a sea.
Yep.
Very easily defended. It took the signing of the Treaty of Ghent for the U.S. to regain the fort and the island. Fort Holmes, as it was now known, was used as a prison for Confederate sympathizers during the Civil War. Again, very remote.
Yeah.
Because, and we won't stop shouting this from the rafters until everyone in Michigan remembers that we were part of the Union. Look at you, West Michigan. You know who you are.
And,
You know.
Northern Michigan and parts of Southern Michigan.
Yeah, like, I remember learning some of how integral Michigan was in school.
Yeah.
We studied Michigan history in 4th grade. And I have talked to other Michiganders. They said the same thing. Something about 4th grade.
Yeah. That's when we did
and
California too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, 4th grade, we learn
Yep.
state history. But the things I've learned since then is just like, no man, like, we basically won this war
Yeah.
for the Union. Like, if it weren't for Michigan, the Union very easily could have lost. You're welcome.
I mean, like, didn't Lincoln say thank God for Michigan? Like,
Oh yeah, Michigan troops were the first ones to show up.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure if war had been declared.
oh, what?
And
We're
Michigan
going to war?
were right there. And Lincoln was like, oh, thank God for Michigan.
Yeah.
Because we were ready and raring to go.
Yeah.
Michigan was the birthplace of the Republican Party. Don't listen to what they say now. It was Michigan.
Yep.
It was Jackson, Michigan.
Yeah.
Funny, because Jackson was very pro-slavery. But
Yep.
Jackson, Michigan was the birthplace of the Party of Lincoln.
Yep. Yeah. For anybody who doesn't know history, there was a period in time not that long ago when Republicans and Democrats switched platforms. So when we talk about Republicans,
Yeah.
when we talk about being a Republican back in the day, that was the sane side.
Yeah. I mean, they've kept the spirit of some of their original platforms, but not really. But I mean, honestly, Jackson founded the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
The world has changed a bit since then.
A little bit.
Just a little
But
bit.
not
Same
enough.
with the Republican Party.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Republican Party was founded just prior to the Civil War,
Right.
so things have changed a lot since then.
And yet, not enough.
Weirdly, yeah.
All right. Anyway, after the Civil War, the island became much more of a tourist destination and vacation spot. It's gorgeous. Of course it did.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
In fact, Mackinac National Park was the second national park ever designated.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Motor vehicles were banned at the end of the 19th century after residents complained of health and safety concerns and that they were spooking the horses. This ban remains in effect, minus the island having safety vehicles and snowmobiles, for safety reasons, obviously. And it gives the whole place a very quaint and historic feeling. I really like traveling around by walking and biking. It's not a huge island. It's super walkable. Or you could take a carriage. Like, it's not big. Biking was perfect.
Yeah, I biked whatever the highway is that goes around the periphery. I biked that, well, I was in college. I was in my prime.
Yeah. Well, we did it when we went.
Did we? Yeah. I mean, I could probably do it now on a bike. We just have to take our time, which is fine. It's gorgeous.
I know. Why would you hurry?
Bring along some water, bring along some food. Good times.
Have a picnic in front of Skull Rock, whatever.
Yeah.
Or Skull Cave.
Yeah. I like taking the buggies too.
Yeah.
But I don't like horses, which is why I'm in the buggy, not on the horse. It was really weird. Do you remember, I don't know, a number of years ago, I think it was Mike Pence visited the island?
Yes.
And they brought his motorcade, and seeing the pictures was like trippy.
It was weird.
It was so bizarre.
Like, this is a car. This is not supposed to be here. This is not a car island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I understand their concerns, but it was still super annoying. Also, because he was from Indiana.
Oh yeah.
If he'd been from a state that wasn't Indiana or Ohio, it might have been less irritating.
No, it was Pence, so it's fucking terrible no matter which way you look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I would have felt the same about if anyone had been like, no, we have to have this motorcade. Even if you were a Democrat, it'd be like, oh man, come on.
Come on!
You could have figured something out. Get some armored horse-pulled carriages. That'd be pretty cool,
That'd be
actually.
awesome. I feel like presidents have been there before and haven't had motorcades.
Yeah, probably.
But I couldn't tell you who.
I mean, our governor has the summer mansion is there.
Yeah.
But yeah, those pictures are just like, they still like weird me out.
Oh, yeah. No, it's... Yeah.
These don't belong. It wasn't like a single car, like it was the motorcade.
Everybody.
The whole thing. Like, how did they even get on the island?
I don't know. How did you even get there?
Yeah, enough of my
Anyway,
reminiscing, I guess. We can cut some of that. It's fine. I'm sure other listeners too are like, yeah, that was weird.
Yeah.
Or others have never been there and they're just like, wow, these people are weird.
These people are strange. We know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes, because we have a lot of talk.
We do have a lot.
A lot of places to talk about here on this island. As small as it is, we've already covered it. There's a long history.
Yeah. And now, a word from our sponsors. A huge thank you to Chapters Tea and Coffee for sponsoring us this season. Their robust coffee and flavorful teas are keeping us going this busy spooky season. The Raven's Roast coffee is perfectly roasted, incredibly smooth, and when I handed the first cup to my husband, he took a sip and a look of pure bliss came over him. Krista and her husband made the Dream Within a Dream tea before bed, and they loved the well-balanced flavor and calming warmth of it. There are so many reasons to enjoy this brand. Chapters is local to Southeast Michigan. You can get all of their blends from drinkchapters.com. And they donate 5% of their net profits to Active Minds, the national leader for young adult mental health advocacy and suicide prevention. You'll fall in love with the art, the blends, the bookmarks. Do not wait to get your hands on these blends. Make the cold months warm and comfortable with Chapters, tea, and books. Again, that is drinkchapters.com. Thank you for sponsoring this season of Haunted Mitten.
So there's no way we're getting them all today, but we can at least get the ball rolling. Each location on the island is unique and has its own historical significance to Mackinac, and the first of those locations is Post Cemetery. The Mackinac Island Tourism website has a little information on Post's history.
Quote, the Post Cemetery is the final resting place for Fort Mackinac soldiers, their families, and local officials. Although the origin of the cemetery is lost in history, local lore suggests that both American and British War of 12 soldiers are buried there. Known burials include Ignatius Goldhofer?
Wow, that's a fantastic name.
I know! A Civil War veteran who came to Fort Mackinac in 1869. He was buried in the Post Cemetery by his wife and children when he died 3 years later. Other burials include Edward Biddle, who served as sheriff, and we'll talk about him later, village president and surveyor in the mid-19th century. He was a huge player in Mackinac
yes,
politics and economy and stuff. And the 1880s burial of Josiah and Isabel Cowes, the infant children of Lieutenant Calvin and Mary Cowles, whom we will talk about later as well.
Yeah, I recognize those names.
Yeah.
Now. Also Biddle.
Yes.
Because yeah. There is plenty of spooky activity here to go around. Is a cemetery. Come on. Joan St. John, in her book Mists of Mackinac, Forgotten Folklore, Fantasy, and Phenomena, says that at the graves of the children of Lieutenant Calvin Cowles and his wife Mary, Isabel, and Josiah, a woman in a long dress has been seen weeping. St. John felt the strong presence of a woman, and she spoke to her. The woman identified herself as Mary, and she blamed her husband Calvin for the death of the children. She'd never wanted to move to the island. It was her husband's decision to advance his career. Sometimes the children can also be heard wailing. Phantom horses are seen and heard at the crossroads that leads to Post and 2 other cemeteries.
The 2 other cemeteries, because an island that is 4.35 square miles has more than one, are St. Anne's and Mackinac Island cemeteries. They're all next to each other, which is convenient. The legend of the phantom horses that are seen and heard come from an old tale about the archway to St. Anne's being built incorrectly. The architect accounted for the carriages and hearses needing to enter and exit, but not the drivers that sat atop the vehicles. One driver either didn't know or forgot, and, well, his body made it under the arch anyway. No telling how much of that story is true, but whoops.
Yeah, I feel like that is not enough to knock your head off. You'd have to be going pretty
You-
darn fast.
Like, you'd have to be going really fast, right?
Yeah. Like,
We are speeding out of that cemetery. Gotta go.
the horses got spooked or something. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah. So that's why
That
it's
I'm-
just rumor, but it's.
yeah, it's a fun story.
I was like, it's
Oh,
kind of funny.
yeah. And then you could talk about the headless coachman of Mackinac Island. That could
Exactly.
lead to all kinds of other fun stories.
Exactly.
But St. Anne's and Mackinac Island cemeteries have their fair share of stories as well. St. Anne's was originally next to St. Anne's Catholic Church, but as the population grew, you probably know where this is going, the cemetery needed to be moved. According to MackinacIsland.org, it was established in 1924, although it contains a grave from 1833, the occupant of which we'll be talking about later. There are two legends associated with this cemetery and the church for which it was named. The first comes to us from Joan St. John. A ghostly woman in a blue dress and a macabre funeral procession, in quotes, haunt the grounds. St. John did not encounter any spirits, only an overwhelming sense of, quote, sadness and waiting.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that makes sense if you're waiting for the end times.
Sure. Yeah.
The second legend involves the church and a famous burial disturbed, as told by MackinacIsland.org.
Quote, one prominent early Catholic on Mackinac Island is actually buried inside St. Anne's Church. At her request, pioneering Mackinac Island fur trader Magdalene Laframboise was buried beneath the church altar when she died in 1846. However,
Woo, La Framboise!
yeah, I know, it's like, oh,
She was
familiar.
awesome.
However, when the church underwent a renovation in the mid-20th century, her remains were moved to a grave in the adjacent churchyard. Legend has it that the church's steeple began to tilt at that time and gradually leaned more and more. When the church reinterred La Framboise's remains in a crypt in the church basement in 2013, the steeple stopped moving, although it's still off-center to this day. End quote.
Sure, why not?
She said, you're burying me in this church, and if you move me, I will tilt the hell out of your steeple.
Yeah, I will move the church. She was a powerful lady, so you know what? I believe it.
Right? She was a badass. We're not going to talk about her in these specific episodes. I left, like, in doing the research for this, I had to leave out so much stuff, or else our entire season would be about Mackinac Island.
Yeah, like, she was awesome.
So perhaps we will talk about her later.
Mackinac Island Cemetery is the island's Protestant cemetery and was created once more people started moving to the island, and they needed more than just a Catholic churchyard. God forbid they be buried together.
Yeah. No. You don't mix that.
God hates that.
Yeah. Looks at Catholic husbands. What?
So, other than the spectral horses mentioned earlier, the only ghostly experience we could find comes from Joan St. John's book, Mists of Mackinac, which is a pretty fun book if you want to read it.
It's fun, yeah.
In it, St. John writes about an encounter with the spirit of a native woman who was buried there. The woman told her that many native women had married soldiers, not always by choice, which I would believe. Their lives were hard because they were expected to dress and act like white women who did not associate with them. Thus, learning their ways was difficult. She did not like the clothes, language, or how she was expected to behave. I would not either. When St. John asked her why she didn't go into the light, the woman answered that it was because she'd learned that in heaven she would be with her husband for eternity, and she didn't want that. She preferred to stay on the island without him. St. John, quote, saw her join 6 other spirit women walking toward the woods, end quote.
Oh my god. I'm with her though. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I was forced
For sure.
to marry this guy. I had to pretend to be white, but the white people still didn't like me even when I pretended to be that. So no, I'm not going to quote unquote heaven because it sounds more like hell.
Yeah, it sounds awful.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
I'd rather stay with my friends on this beautiful island, thanks.
Right.
It's an interesting story. It gives you some things to consider.
Yeah.
But whether or not that's true, no idea.
I don't know. I've never spoken to St. John, but she seems cool.
I actually might have met her at Crazy Wisdom. because we used to have local Michigan authors
Oh,
speak around
yeah.
Halloween, and I believe she was one who came out.
That's awesome. I want to talk to her.
So yeah, I think I did meet her. Actually, it might have been when Miss of Mackinac. I remember we had her book and we had signed copies of it.
Yeah. Dude, that's cool. Well, Joan, we would love to talk.
Yeah, because I don't think she lives too far away from us. I'm not sure, but
Cool.
yeah, I've read a number of her adventures, and she sounds like a really interesting person to sit down and talk to.
I know. I would love to. That sounds great. All right. Well, whew. All that, we have barely begun.
Yeah. We're like about half an hour into this.
I know.
Not even. A lot of it is just us chatting.
We'll visit a few more places tonight. Don't worry. The island may be small, but its ghost population outnumbers its living by far.
Oh, yes.
I'm fairly certain you can't walk down the street without encountering some kind of apparition.
Based on the stories, yeah. Like, and it's just such a unique space.
Yeah.
It kind of lends itself to stories.
Oh, yeah.
Experiences.
Definitely. Our next stop just might be the oldest building on the island, according to the historic plaque outside of it. It states that the home may have been standing since 1780, which would be an incredible feat for a small island in the middle of some tough straits.
Oh yeah, it's some of the most deadly. It's like, if not the most deadly seaway in the world.
Yeah,
is the Straits of Mackinac.
And,
are the Straits of Mackinac.
Yeah, and imagining one little building surviving all of that weather is impressive, to say the least.
Yeah.
The Biddle House Mackinac Island Native American Museum is so named for Edward Biddle, a fur trader who occupied and refitted the home in about 1822 to serve as both home for his family and a fur trader, where he sold the pelts from the native wildlife from the area. Wikipedia has this to say about him.
Quote, Edward Biddle's success in the fur trade was associated with two significant factors. His marriage to Agatha Biddle, a leading member of the Ottawa Nation who possessed an extensive regional kinship network, and his close ties with the then-dominant American Fur Company, AFC. Most furs bought or sold by Edward and Agatha Biddle would also have passed through the hands of the AFC at some point. The Biddles bought the house outright in 1832. End quote. And as an aside, Mackinac Island was actually incredibly diverse, and interracial marriages between the indigenous people and Europeans happen often.
Yep. Yeah, you have a very small community, so.
Right.
Yeah.
And the fur trade was long established by the French.
Yeah.
And the coureur de bois did not bring women with them.
Nope.
So, yeah, very diverse area.
Yeah. Whether forcibly or not. Let me say.
Yeah, and I mean, you can kind of say the same thing about other parts of the world back then, too.
Oh,
Women
yeah.
have not always been treated kindly in the marriage market.
Yeah, to say the least, yeah.
Hence the word market.
Yep. So now the house serves as a museum depicting the 1820s when the Biddle family would have lived and worked there. Staff in costume lead tours of the house, the native artwork and artifacts displayed in the home, and give tourists a sense of what life was like on Mackinac Island back in the day. So, hard.
Yeah, it was pretty rough.
But after hours, when the employees have gone, it seems the Biddles or someone or something else still occupies the house.
Todd Clements, who owns the tour company Haunts of Mackinac, which I believe is the tour that we took.
Okay, I thought so.
I also took later with my husband.
Yeah, I thought so.
He has plenty to say about this island. And at the Biddle house, a child has been seen in the upstairs windows well after everyone should be out of the building. Mary, his youngest, is actually one of, if not the most famous graves on the island. Mary has the unfortunate honor of having the oldest grave on the island.
Yeah.
She really did die at 8, but the legend behind her isn't exactly true, although we don't know how she met her end. Very sad.
Yeah.
The legend states she fell through the ice of Lake Michigan, and as a result, her father Edward lined old Christmas trees from the island to the shore of St. Ignace as a way for folks to get to and from safely in winter. There are trees making a path during winter, as evidenced by various YouTube videos, but if Mary's death was the origin, we don't know.
Yeah. But, like, there really is a path in winter for snowmobiles. That's just lined with people's old Christmas trees, which is awesome.
Yeah. I would still be, like, terrified to make that trip because the straits are very deadly.
Yeah.
But it look up pictures, YouTube videos, you can see all the Christmas trees lining the
Yeah, it's
path,
pretty cool.
so
Yeah.
you don't get lost.
Right.
It's a great reuse of Christmas trees, yeah.
Yeah, for
'Cause
sure.
You don't want to go out there without a path because you're gonna get lost.
You're gonna get lost. Yeah.
And then you're gonna become the new legend of Mackinac.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So however, people still leave trinkets at her grave, which is in St. John's Cemetery. And who knows? The child still hanging around the Biddle house may be Mary. Joan St. John claims that voices can be heard inside the house after hours, as well as footsteps, and occasionally the apparition of a person can be seen walking just outside the home.
Okay, one more stop tonight before we wrap up. The Rifle Range Trail is a long expanse of treeless area on the island where, beginning in the 1880s, soldiers from the fort would practice their marksmanship. Prior to the 1880s, soldiers weren't required to practice marksmanship, but according to historians from Fort Mackinac, after several defeats out west in the later 1800s, shooting training developed and became standard in the military. So a large space on the island was deforested, and a range was made for the soldiers stationed there to practice.
I just love how they're like, wow, we're getting our asses handed to us. Maybe we should actually, like, train our soldiers how to do things.
Yeah, maybe we should practice.
Huh. All right.
Our military was not the most well-trained in the past.
I just love that nobody thought to, like, practice their shooting. That's fine. We'll be fine.
They were hunters, right? They were fine.
Yeah. Oh, wait, this is completely different. Oh, okay.
Things have changed a lot since World War I, okay?
Jennifer Billick, in her book Ghosts of Michigan's Upper Peninsula, says that Private James Brown was hanged there for murder of Corporal Hugh Flynn. The two had argued in the fort's mess hall, and Brown pulled out a gun and shot Flynn. Brown's ghost has been seen along the trail. People also report being tripped and having an invisible force step on the heels of their shoes. Others have reported having their hair pulled and being pushed. Some also say you could feel the whizzing of invisible bullets fly by.
Yeah, that's the one I read all the time,
Yeah.
is the invisible bullets.
Yeah.
I felt nothing when I was there, just for the record. I tried. Did not feel any whizzing bullets.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm not too upset by that, but don't really want to be by bullets invisible or otherwise.
I mean, yeah, but still.
WFMK reports that, quote, others say they've been followed by an odd shadow and the apparition of a man dressed in a Revolutionary War uniform in full figure, end quote. Odd, because none of the Revolutionary War was fought there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Boundaries were a lot different back then.
Yeah,
but
still.
Who knows?
I was like, wait,
Who
what?
knows?
Why would it? Okay.
Yeah, yep.
That's fine.
Several articles, including from MLive, repeat the story of Brown and Flynn. Yep, I hear that a lot too.
Yeah.
It seems to have been confirmed by historians.
I was on the subreddit Ask Historians, which is usually actually pretty legit, but I do have to just state I was on Reddit.
Right. Yeah, it may have been one of the cases cited in order to help abolish the death penalty in the 1840s. Because Michigan was very anti-death penalty.
Yeah.
There are a lot of cases that say, oh, this is, the last case or the last whatever. Like, yeah, Michigan was very... And I've learned even more about it when we were at the Jackson prison, the old prison. So
yeah,
that'll probably come up in a future episode. Us, we like to find as much truth in the history as possible.
Yep, that's what we do.
It's my favorite part.
I know. That's why I usually let you do it. But oh my god, we need to go back to Mackinac.
Yeah,
I miss it.
And they've added so much. Like when I was there with Greg, like a decade ago, I don't remember. They had the butterfly exhibit, which was really cool.
Oh yeah.
Like the butterfly house.
Yeah.
There's so much more there than there ever was when I was growing up.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah, even if I do remember that bicycle ride totally messing up my back the next day.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty intense.
Well, and I hadn't ridden a bike in like a decade before that, and since then I haven't ridden a bike. So, but I remember our ghost tour being great. The guy who was terrified of bats was hilarious.
Yes, and he wore a cape. It was wonderful. He'd be in the middle of telling a story and then just go, ah! And like run away flapping his cape because he thought he saw a bat or whatever.
Yeah.
Or did see a bat. There are lots of bats there.
Yeah, it's like, well, yeah,
makes sense.
there's a whole bunch of bats there, it being, land. So.
Yeah, and not greatly populated.
Yeah. So maybe next year, maybe we can make a whole trip out of it. That'd be so nice.
That would be amazing.
That'd be so
great place
fun.
to stay is Clohan, which is where we stayed.
That's where
and
we
then Greg
stayed.
and I also stayed there.
Yeah.
I recommend it because one, it's just a great little house.
Yeah.
The rooms are beautiful and historical and
Yes.
everything. But not only do you get breakfast, it's a bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
You get afternoon tea.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
Yeah. It was so good. Yeah, I loved that little house. It was nice.
They even let us come back because we checked out and they held our luggage for us
Oh,
until
good.
the ferry. It was time for the ferry.
Yeah.
And we still were able to come back for afternoon tea even though we had checked out.
Oh, that's lovely. Oh,
Yeah, they're wonderful. Highly recommend Clohan.
nice. All right, well, we will continue more Mackinac in part 2. Less history, way more spirits. So, if you got kind of bored, we'll be.
Hopefully you didn't.
Hopefully you didn't.
It's the history of Mackinac Island is a pretty wild ride too.
It is. I didn't even include all of it because I was like, okay, so part 1 is just history. We can't do that. So
No.
But yeah.
But yeah, if you haven't been, check it out. It's a very unique place. It's totally unique. There's not another place even remotely like it.
No. Strange Escapes, which is run by Amy Bruni and I think Adam Berry of Kindred Spirits fame, previously Ghost Hunters fame. They do a couple, it's called Strange Escapes. They do a couple, essentially like paranormal weekends at different places across the US every year.
Nice.
This fall, they had their Mackinac Island one. And I wanted to go so bad. Oh my God. It's like 3 or 4 days. It's almost all inclusive. I think like you get a lot of lectures. The Newkirks go to a lot of them and do a lot of lectures, a lot of demonstrations, ghost investigations. There's always like a dress up party. So it is expensive. I think per person it is like $1,000. But I'm going to go one day. I want to go so bad. Anyway, we'll continue in part 2. I hope you enjoyed. Here's all of our stuff. Krista, go.
Let's see. We've got social media is at Haunted Mitten. And we're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Blue Sky.
We are on Blue Sky. I don't post a lot to Blue Sky because I haven't found a lot of folks worth following yet, but I'm working on it.
I follow so many people on Blue Sky. I do. I am in the same places at Krista K. Coburn. Kay is in the same places at K Gray Writes, just the letter K and Gray Writes.
Yep.
Our website is hauntedmitten.com with merch. There's a link up there. We have Patreon. It is $1 to $3 a month. Gets you live shows, true crime episodes, ghost stories. We'll be doing listener emails and more. You might get my weird little doodles. My husband and I like to check out weird locations, cemeteries, places of hauntings.
Yeah.
So I usually will do a summary of the trip and post pictures and things up there.
Yeah. If anybody is interested, I am happy to post like the raw audio from investigations and whatnot. If you want to listen in on us investigating some places.
Yeah. Help us find some EVPs.
I loved going to cemeteries and just sitting there with an audio recorder and asking questions. So those can go on there too if you're interested. It's cool. We're adding more and more stuff, and yeah, we're gonna start doing listener emails. So
yeah, because we've been receiving quite a few,
which is awesome.
Which has been great,
and we want more.
Yeah. Share your experiences, whether it's a place we've talked about or not.
Yeah,
because maybe we'll talk about it later.
Yeah. And a huge thank you to our sponsors this season, LynBDesigns and Chapters Tea and Coffee. Thank you. You make our live shows and all of the cool stuff that we have to hand out possible. So
I am literally drinking some coffee right now.
Yeah,
from
no,
Kathy.
that's what we made this morning.
Yep.
Was Chapter's coffee.
Weirdly, I'm actually drinking coffee, guys.
I know.
This is
That's
everyone. This is nuts.
that's how good this coffee is. Krista is drinking
Yeah. Yeah. I'll probably have the tea later.
it.
Afternoon tea.
And I will have more coffee. All right, friends. As always, happy haunting. We're back here to talk to you about LynBDesigns. Not only do they have the best nail polish to rival even those most expensive nail polishes you see on Instagram, but they have stickers, wax melts, shirts, everything cute and adorable and definitely ready for this fall season. So be sure to check out this vegan, cruelty-free brand. You will love them as much as we do. Check out LynBDesigns monthly sales. They are fantastic. I am going to go look at some right now. Thanks.